Adam Mount. He's a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, and he joins us now from Washington via Skype. Good to see you, Adam. This is not the first time that there's been tension around the Korean Peninsula. I want to get your sense. Are you worried right now about the brinksmanship, about the military positioning that's going on around that very tense peninsula right now?
It is a time of heightened tensions, and anytime tensions rise, the risk of war increases. The risk of misperception, the risk that someone could take a signal the wrong way and miscalculate, and a war could start. This failed missile test that happened very recently, that happened yesterday or today, it could be embarrassing for the regime. And one of the best things that you can do in foreign policy is to avoid backing your adversary into a corner. So if the regime feels threatened, if they feel like it's undermining internal stability, if it's undermining the legitimacy of the ruler, there's a possibility that an accident could occur, and it could boil over into something much more destructive. It's vitally important right now that the United States demonstrates restraint and that everyone keeps a cool head.
Of course, we're dealing with a relatively young American presidency, Donald Trump, who has shown some unpredictable behavior. And North Korea has made it very clear it is determined to go forward with its nuclear program. So the question, I guess, what could come next? And did you see anything come out of this parade that took place Saturday? Did you learn anything about North Korea's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile technology?
There were a number of surprises during the parade. We saw multiple new tracked vehicles. These are TELs, they're transporter erector launches. These are the very large vehicles that are used to transport mobile missiles across roads or across land. This will allow North Korea's missiles to hide better in case a contingency crops up. There were also two new ICBMs that you mentioned earlier. What we saw was the canisters for the ICBMs. We can't be certain that there were missiles inside or whether those capabilities are being developed at a rapid pace, but the signal was clearly that they are interested in threatening the continental United States with a nuclear strike. So what has to come next is that the United States and South Korea and China have to move beyond military posturing and put a deal on the table. They need to start talking to the regime to try to find ways to de-escalate tensions, talk about ways to restrain the nuclear program, and talk about a way forward, a way out of this bind.
Do you have any historic examples of deals that succeeded in the past to, at least in the short term, ratchet down the tension and the pressure in the region?
Well, the most natural deal is the Iran deal that occurred during President Obama's tenure. And Donald Trump, as a candidate, was disapproving of that deal. He disavowed the possibility of diplomacy. He said it was the worst deal that we've ever done. And that kind of inflexibility, that kind of skepticism of diplomacy will not serve him well going forward on North Korea. They've got to be more flexible. We can't win every little dispute or spat or issue that comes up in the course of negotiations. There needs to be some real creative thinking about what we're willing to offer North Korea, and also the pressure that we can put on North Korea to get them back to the table. There needs to be more economic pressure, more sanctions put on. The regime's economy is growing very gradually, and they've found ways to circumvent the UN sanctions regime. That's just not acceptable. So there needs to be more attention on both sides of the ledger, both inducements to negotiate and also coercive incentives to negotiate.